All right, so we're diving headfirst into this future of work thing that's honestly already here, remote and hybrid work.
Yeah.
And by 2025, the projections are saying something like 32 million remote workers in the US alone.
Huge.
It's a massive shift.
Absolutely.
And that scale just brings a whole bunch of challenges,
It does.
particularly when we're talking about, keeping teams effective and secure,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So if you're listening to this, you're probably the kind of person who wants to stay ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
right? You want to know what's coming.
Yeah, you want to stay informed.
Exactly.
Sure.
But it's tricky because the way we work just keeps changing.
It does. It's a moving target for sure.
It's a moving target. So we're here to give you a little bit of a clearer picture.
Exactly. And you know what began as sort of an emergency response to a global event
Yeah.
has really solidified itself into a lot of organizational structures.
Absolutely.
And for individuals like yourself, I think it's really important to have a solid understanding of the long-term implications of this shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about your own personal productivity, but really the overall success of your organization.
For sure. So to do that, to get into those long-term implications, we're gonna extract the good stuff from a really insightful piece that we found.
Okay.
It's called Managing Remote Teams Without Losing Your Sanity or Your Data.
Like the title.
It's a great title, right? And it's written by Brandy Rogers of a company called CharTec.
Okay.
And her perspective, it comes from that world of IT providers.
Okay.
Specifically what they call MSPs,
Got it.
managed service providers.
Makes sense.
But the cool thing is, even though it comes from that specific world,
Yeah.
the issues that she raises and the approaches that she suggests are relevant to pretty much anyone,
I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Who's dealing with remote work in any way.
For sure.
So think of this as your sort of like cheat sheet guide, right?
Yeah.
To the really crucial things in managing a team when you're not all in the same room.
Exactly. And one of the most interesting things that the article points out right off the bat is this danger,
Okay.
this tendency to still view remote work as something that's temporary,
Yeah.
despite the fact that, I mean, you were just mentioning 32 million people.
Right.
Like this is clearly a long-term
I
trend.
see it. It's here to stay.
Yeah, and a lot of organizations are just not really embracing that strategic shift that's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
It's almost like they're thinking, oh, this is just,
We're going to go back.
we're going to go back to normal eventually.
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid.
Right.
Mhm.
And that short-sightedness can really backfire.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the specifics here. Rogers outlines a few common mistakes that companies tend to make when they're managing remote teams. And some of these, might sound really familiar.
I'm sure.
So first off, the big one, right? Treating remote work like it's temporary. It seems kind of obvious now, but back when this all started, a lot of organizations just kind of scrambled to patch things up.
Sure, they had to.
And so what are the downsides of that kind of temporary mindset? Like, what are the real world impacts?
Well, if you approach it as a short-term thing, you're probably not going to make the investments
Right.
in the infrastructure that you really need.
Yeah.
Robust, scalable, and critically secure infrastructures.
So you're not really building for the future.
Exactly. And that leads right into the next mistake.
Okay.
Over-reliance on those VPN Band-Aids.
Oh, yeah. VPN's everybody's favorite.
Right. And look, VPNs have their place.
We do.
But the article makes a really good point.
Okay.
It's about the risk of not evolving
Right.
to more modern, and I think the word here is resilient, secure access solutions.
So you're saying VPNs aren't necessarily wrong,
Not inherently, no.
but they're maybe not enough.
Yeah, they can be slow, they can be really clunky to use, and that can actually lead to people finding their own workaround,
Oh, that's a good point.
which might be less secure,
Right. So they're trying to get their work done,
of course.
but they're maybe doing it in a way that puts the company at risk.
Exactly, and that ties directly into the third mistake,
Okay.
which is underestimating the cybersecurity risks.
Huge. Yeah.
I mean, when your team is scattered all over the place,
Yeah.
possibly using their own devices on their home networks,
Right.
the potential entry points for a cyber attack multiply like crazy.
It's like the front door is wide open.
It really is, and all those ways that someone could get into your systems,
Yeah.
that's what they call the attack surface.
Okay.
And that becomes a major concern when you don't have a good handle on who's accessing what and from where.
Especially if they're using, like their kid's old laptop or something.
Exactly, and that's actually the fourth mistake,
Oh, right.
not providing the right hardware for remote employees.
Yeah, it's got to be so frustrating
Oh, I can imagine.
to try and do your best work on a machine that just can't keep up.
It's like expecting a race car driver to win with a flat tire.
Exactly. And, it can be tough because some companies might not have the budget
Of course.
to outfit everyone with brand new equipment.
Sure.
But Rogers is saying that it's an investment worth considering.
Yeah, I think she sees it as essential.
Okay, so we've got security, we've got hardware, and then there's this fifth mistake that Rogers talks about.
Okay.
And this one is about neglecting the human side of things.
Okay.
So she says a lot of companies make the mistake of overlooking remote employee productivity and engagement.
Yeah, it's easy to do when you don't see them every day.
Right, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Exactly. But what happens when that aspect gets ignored?
Well, I imagine people start to feel isolated.
Yeah, disengagement is a big risk.
Disengagement, okay.
Morale takes a hit, and ultimately that impacts their work, their output.
Right, so it's not just about giving them the tools.
Yeah.
It's about making them feel like they're still part of the team.
Exactly. And that's crucial for both the individual employee and the company as a whole.
So basically, if you don't address these 5 mistakes,
Yeah,
you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
absolutely.
So we've talked about the traps, right? What not to do.
Pitfalls.
Now let's flip it and look at what Rogers suggests as effective strategies
All right. I like it.
for managing remote teams.
Huh.
And she offers some really practical guidance here.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics, communication and meetings.
Okay.
What are the key principles that she lays out?
I think it boils down to structure and purpose.
Okay.
Regular check-ins are good,
Yeah.
but you want to avoid those pointless daily meetings that just eat up everyone's time.
Oh, yeah. The ones where you're just sitting there like, why am I here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead, she recommends using tools like, Microsoft Teams or Slack
Oh, yeah.
for quick communication.
Right.
And that can be way more efficient
For sure.
than dragging everyone into a meeting.
Okay, so asynchronous communication.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense.
And one thing that's absolutely essential
Okay.
is to have clearly defined KPIs and goals
Right. So everyone knows what they're working towards.
and how their work contributes to the bigger picture.
Makes sense because it's easy to lose sight of that when you're not in the office.
It is, yeah.
So for you listening, think about your own team. Are your meetings productive
That's a good question.
or are they a drain on everyone's time?
Yeah, are you taking advantage of those quick communication channels?
Okay, so that's communication and meetings in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rogers also talks about specific tools.
Oh, right, the tech stuff.
Yeah, for communication and collaboration.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ones that she mentions?
Well, for keeping projects on track.
Yeah.
She mentions cloud-based project management platforms like Asana,
Okay.
Monday, ConnectWise.
I've heard of Asana.
Yeah, those are popular.
And then for secure file sharing.
She suggests SharePoint and Google Drive.
Yeah, those make sense.
And, of course, for company-wide communication, you've got your Microsoft Teams and your Zoom.
Right, the classics.
And it's not so much about the specific platform.
Right.
It's more about the principle of choosing the right tools for your team.
Yeah.
Ones that make you more efficient and keep your data safe.
Got it. So having the right digital toolkit is crucial.
Absolutely.
But Rogers also makes this point about actually investing
Okay.
in secure, high-performance remote work solutions.
Right. So it's not just about the software.
Exactly.
It's about the whole package.
Yeah, like the infrastructure, the hardware, the whole shebang.
Because remote employees need reliable access to all the core business applications.
Yes.
Regardless of where they are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is where she brings up CoreCat's VPX.
VPX, what is that?
It stands for Virtual Private Experience.
Virtual private experience. Okay.
And it's designed to address those challenges that come with, inconsistent internet connections and outdated hardware.
So it's like a souped up remote work setup.
In a way, yeah.
So for someone who's managing a remote team, what's the big advantage of using something like VPX?
Well, the core benefit is that it provides this consistent high-performance virtual workspace.
So they're not at the mercy of their home Wi-Fi.
Exactly. It basically eliminates those excuses about bad internet or slow laptops.
Because it's all running in the cloud or something?
Essentially, yes.
So it's like giving everyone an enterprise-grade connection.
No matter where they are.
So for our listener who values seamless and effective work,
Yep.
regardless of location,
Hmm.
this kind of technology is addressing that need directly.
It's all about creating a smooth and productive remote environment.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it sounds like it could be a game changer for a lot of companies.
Potentially, yeah.
So we've talked about the tech side of things,
Right.
but Rogers also emphasizes that it's not just about the tools, right?
Well,
You've got to keep those remote employees engaged and motivated.
yeah, you can't just give them a laptop and say good luck.
Exactly. So how do you do that? How do you keep people feeling connected when they're not physically in the office?
It takes effort.
Okay.
You have to be deliberate about it.
Give me some specifics.
Well, Rogers suggests things like proactively integrating remote team members into the company culture.
So they don't feel like they're on the outside.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Virtual events.
Like virtual happy hours.
Yeah, those can work.
Okay.
Making sure that their contributions are recognized and appreciated.
Oh, yeah, acknowledging people's work.
Publicly, if possible.
Okay.
And even thinking about how to adapt those traditional office perks.
Like free snacks.
Yeah, or company swag.
Oh, so finding ways to translate those perks to a remote setting.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
And she also highlights the importance of recognizing achievements.
Like employee of the month kind of thing.
Yeah, or bonuses, or even just shout-outs in team meetings.
So making people feel valued.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about monitoring productivity?
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a fine line, right?
It is.
Because you want to make sure people are doing their work,
Of course.
but you don't want to be breathing down their necks.
Exactly.
So how do you strike that balance?
Rogers says the focus should be on those key performance indicators.
Okay, KPIs.
So what are they actually achieving?
Right.
Not just how many hours they're logged in.
Because that doesn't tell the whole story.
It really doesn't. And it can make people feel micromanaged and distrusted.
So it's about outcomes, not just activity.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So we've talked about what to do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's not working so well.
Okay.
Rogers touches on some of the more established remote work technologies,
Mm-hmm.
VPNs, RDS, and VDI.
Right. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, and she points out some limitations.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
VPNs, we talked about them earlier.
They're secure,
But
but
slow.
yeah, and often frustrating to use.
And if they're not managed properly.
They can actually create security vulnerabilities.
Oh, so they're not a silver bullet.
Definitely not.
Then there's RDS.
Remote desktop services.
Right. And what's the issue there?
It can be a cost-effective option,
Okay.
but it can suffer from performance problems.
Like?
Lag downtime,
Yeah.
especially when a lot of people are using it at once.
So it's like rush hour on the internet.
Kinda.
And then there's VDI.
Virtual desktop infrastructure.
That sounds intense.
It's powerful.
Okay.
It offers great security and performance, but it can be expensive and complicated to set up.
So maybe not ideal for smaller companies.
Right.
So for you listening, think about your own organization's setup.
Yeah.
Are you relying on VPNs, RDS, or maybe even VDI?
And do those limitations resonate with you?
Have you experienced those slowdowns or those frustrations?
It's worth considering.
And this brings us back to CoreCat's VPX,
Full circle.
because the article presents it as an alternative to those traditional approaches.
It kind of combines elements of both RDS and VDI.
So it's like a hybrid approach.
Yeah, they're trying to get the best of both worlds.
Okay, so what are the concrete benefits for a business or an employee?
Well, first off, high-speed performance,
Even with bad internet.
even with bad internet.
That's impressive.
It
Is
is
that-
strong security
Okay.
because the data is kept in a secure data center.
So it's not floating around on people's personal devices?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
And
it simplifies IT management,
so less headache for the IT department.
which is always a good thing.
So to wrap up, how does VPX change the way remote teams can be managed?
It eliminates that bad internet excuse.
Okay.
It gives IT more control over access and security,
Mm-hmm.
and it lets employees use whatever device they want.
Without sacrificing performance.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
That is.
So we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
Let's distill it down to the absolute key takeaways
Okay.
for our listener who's, dealing with remote teams every day.
The main message is that remote work is here to stay.
It's not a fad.
It's a fundamental shift.
And to succeed in this new world,
You need a long-term strategic approach.
not just quick fixes.
You need to prioritize security, efficient workflows, and engagement.
And those old school solutions.
They often fall short,
So we need to be looking at these modern approaches.
like VPX,
Exactly.
which are designed to address those limitations.
So as we wrap up, here's a final thought.
Okay.
given how fast everything's changing
Well,
with remote work technology and, the way teams are structured,
mhm,
what assumptions are you holding on to
that's a good question.
about the nature of work itself?
Where it happens, how it's done,
Yeah.
what tools are essential,
Yeah. And how might challenging those assumptions
to new possibilities.
unlock new efficiencies? Yes.
For your team, for your organization.
Think about it.
It's not just about the technology,
It's about the bigger picture.
the long-term implications.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting time,
It is.
full of potential.
So stay curious, stay adaptable, and keep diving deep.